Guys, if you can hear me, we'll start in about, we will start in about, what time is it, guys? We'll start in a couple of minutes. What I'm going to do is share the screen, and I uploaded the PDF for today's training. I shortened some of it in the PDF, and the actual PowerPoint that I'm going to walk through today, guys, is just it's a little longer. I separated out some of the stuff. When I went through it again, I was like, I kind of want to touch on some of those points. This does not look, I shouldn't be wearing this for color when I'm doing color training, because it doesn't actually match my shirt, but I was cold. So, all right, I'll take that off. Come on, guys, and let me get the, let's share the, I think we'll just share the PowerPoint. Hopefully, guys, you can still see me. I'll make that a little bigger. And we'll just put that up from the beginning, hopefully. Let me see. So we're going to do today's training, and then a week from Thursday on the 23rd, we'll have a live Q&A. So hop on, close out all the other windows. Let me see. Holiday Decor Training Institute. Let's make sure we're live on the page. I think we are. Yay! Okay, there we are. Yay. Okay, we got a couple more minutes. So hopefully, hop on, guys. And yeah, super excited. I love this training. I like this one. Well, yeah, this training on color and the whole process and goal for using color in the way that I'm going to show you how we map it out and how you actually use it to create a brand, I think is the single biggest, what's the word? Breakthrough, maybe, delineator of actually being taken seriously by your future clients. And I actually think it helps us believe for ourselves that what we're doing is legit and real. And I'll share a couple of funny stories as we get into this. So, all right, let's see what time it is. Boom, boom. Yeah. Okay, we got a couple people. Yeah, I love this small group. There's something to me about small groups. I know we need to grow this. I know we need to grow it, but I like the small group thing. But I am looking forward to having more people in this Holiday Decor Training Institute and really getting people launched in their creative industries and in their creative, kind of their creative endeavors, and just giving tools, just really practical, boots on the ground. How do we do this? Tools. So let me see. I think, do we have Michelle on? There's Michelle. I'm going to promote Michelle to panelists. You guys know Michelle Wilson is our VA. And Michelle, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, great. If you'll mute yourself, then I don't have to, then you can talk if we get somebody else on, or if anybody has any questions or anything like that. Awesome.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. Yay. I love this one. I love color. All right, so I'm gonna, let's go ahead and get started, guys. So this is our training for the Holiday Decor Training Institute. I'm looking at, I got my big board over there and I got my calendar up there. What we're talking this month is color stories, and basically how you're gonna develop and use color for your holiday decor brand. How you actually come up with a color story. And even if you are doing this just for your own home, even if you're just taking this training because you love holiday and you're thinking about holiday, or maybe you're designing wrapping paper, or maybe you're an organizer, maybe it doesn't matter what industry you're involved in that is even adjacent to holiday decor. If you are taking this, I want to encourage you to really focus in and listen and learn, because this is, I perceive, one of the single biggest breakthroughs that I got that helped me take myself seriously in the holiday decor business arena. And it helped my clients take me seriously. I think it had a direct impact on our bottom line. And so I want to give you these really simple, practical tools. All right, so this training, color stories. So what we're going to do is cover how to develop a color story for your holiday designs without indecision, without overwhelm, without wasting your time, without thinking, I can't do this, it's too hard, I don't even know where to start. And there is something that we're going to walk through that is really simple. But as we step into this training webinar, I really want you to take your phone, close it, turn it off, unless you're listening on it, of course. Okay. Just close out all of your other distractions. We have a series of trainings set up for the rest of the year, but this one, if you can get a hold of this, it's a very short amount of time. With the tools and the tips that I'm going to give you in the next 30 to 45 minutes, this is going to be a game changer. All right. Okay, so let's dive in. 3 keys to successful color stories for your unique holiday brand. All right, so the first thing that we need to establish is you have something that you are going to bring to the holiday market. I don't care if you're a professional organizer. Doesn't matter to me if you're designing wrapping paper or you're a home stager and you're going to have to add in different elements for the holiday season. One of the first things that we have to do is we actually have to make the decision that you're going to participate in this and that you're going to provide something for the holiday season. So who and what are you providing? So I wrote this in the PowerPoint. One of the first questions we ask is, do you have your who or your what for your holiday brand or product? And when I first started this whole thing, I did not. I had no who, I had no what. I kind of stumbled into the whole thing because I had a full-time interior design client whose holiday decor looked like crap, and kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, almost by accident, I said, why don't you give me some money and I will decorate your house for the holiday? And that's how the whole thing started for me. So it wasn't like I had a grand master plan. Hey, I'm going to do holiday decor. It basically was, my client had some really ugly stuff in her house and I knew it didn't match her beautiful new home. And so that was my entree into holiday decor. Okay. So if you are feeling like, Anne, I don't even know what I'm doing, I just maybe love Christmas or I love the holidays, color stories are a great place to start. So I want you to focus in and listen and learn while we do this training. And I wrote, it's where I started before I even knew what I was going to provide. All right, so what's the goal of this specific training? We're going to spend 30 to 45 minutes highly focused. We may go up to an hour depending on kind of how deep I go into each one of these different things. But it's basically how to develop a color story for your holiday brand. Okay. Doesn't matter if you are developing a product line. I know we have some people in here developing subscription services. They do wreaths, they make gift baskets, they're florists. Maybe you're developing a gift wrap. We have a lot of designers who are just looking into making accessory items for their main brands that they can sell during the holidays. If you're a designer, a stager, a decorator, whatever it is, even if you are just creating labels or cards for people. You know, a lot of times people will order custom Christmas cards or custom labels. If that's something you're doing, you're selling them on Etsy, doesn't matter. Color is a unifying aspect for your brand. All right, and I say this, people might forget you, but they won't forget the color of your brand if you do it right. So I use the example of Hermes. Hermes, everybody knows in the luxury industry, at least, Hermes orange. You can actually Google it and get the color code for the actual color. So what I want to encourage you to do is embrace this process. We have a joke in our house. You have a license to be wrong. So I'm going to take out my license, just pretend there's a license to be wrong here, and I'm going to give it to you. Okay. And I'm going to share with you in a little bit one of my biggest fails with respect to color for the holiday season. Okay. And I'm still here and I'm still inside the holiday decor industry. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to cover 3 things. I wrote it behind me and it's on the PowerPoint. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to set aside dedicated time to develop your color story. Now, I'm going to walk you through a process that we use that between now, I'm looking at the calendar, and next week, Thursday, when we do our live Q&A, you will have had the ability to develop your entire color story. And then if you have questions or issues, you can come on live and ask me, and we'll deal with your questions and issues, okay? So just let's get focused in here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to actually set aside dedicated time. And I'm going to break this down for you. So I say right now, we are in Q2. Last month, we did a training on the 4Q roadmap and how things are actually broken out during the year so that you don't have to waste a ton of time, you know, working on your holiday brand 24/7 all year long. So if you haven't watched that, go into the member website. All that entire training has been broken down into sections and units, so it's easy to watch. The segments are short. Okay, so we took our live training and then we edited it down and put it into easy to consume units for you. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do it now, right now in Q2. We are in April when we're recording this, but Q2 is April, May, and June. And our trainings for Q2, I'm looking on my big board over here, are color stories, secret keys, and point of view. So next month, we're going to talk about secret keys. But right now, we're talking color stories. So you have permission to set aside this time right now in April. All right. So as the leader, as the brand owner, you're going to set aside 3 sessions for yourself. And if you have a team, you're going to set aside 2 sessions for your team. Now, I'm going to walk you through in a couple of slides later what the actual structure of these things are. But the key is that you want to border your time. Okay. I actually teach on time blocking. We're doing a training later today, but there are tips and tools. I mean, you can use little time blocks like this from Amazon. You can set your timer on your phone. But one of the keys when you border and block out your time is you have to turn off every single other distraction. You don't hear the ding of the Facebook thing. You don't hear the ding of the email going off. You're not kind of scrolling and going back and forth. You close every other quote window in your life when you border the time. Okay. This is the most important step. Why? Because this is what true leaders do. And if you will embrace this process as the leader of your brand, then what happens is that whole thing translates through to the balance of what you do. It actually comes through whether you can articulate it or not. It's how serious do you actually take yourself as the leader for your holiday decor brand. even if you are doing professional organizing, even if you are doing labels like cards and custom labels, or you're designing a wrapping paper, set aside the time to do this. Okay. This is another reason that we focus on this color thing. It actually gives you authority. Having an opinion is one of the keys to having authority, especially in a crowded marketplace like Holiday. Everybody from Walmart to Range Rover, Walmart to Horchow Home, everybody has something that they bring into the Holiday marketplace at large. It could be the color of the bow on the brand new car for Range Rover. It could be the 59-cent ornament at Walmart, but everybody has an opinion. And one of the things that sets you apart in a crowded marketplace is the authority that you bring when you actually have an opinion about color. All right, and then I say this because we see this a lot, especially as I train kind of stagers and decorators and designers coming up. Joanna Gaines is awesome, but she already is. Okay, she already is. The marketplace needs the real you. Okay, so let's just say this. I give myself permission to go for it. Okay, say that. And I'm going to share with you one time I went for it and it bombed. Okay, but I still got published. Okay, so how much time is required in this first key? So the first key is you're going to set aside dedicated time to come up with your branded color story. Okay, so 3 meetings, 3 hours per meeting. So 1 meeting, 3 hours, 2nd meeting, 3 hours, 3rd meeting, 3 hours. And within those 3-hour blocks, you're going to do a 90-minute session and take a 15-minute break and do another 90-minute session. Okay. The reason I use those actual blocks is that experts in things that are way beyond me say that 90 minutes is kind of the most time that you can actually focus in on something without the curve kind of going down and leveling off. And then you need to cleanse your palate, so to speak. You need to just maybe close your eyes, meditate, go for a walk, get a change of scenery, and then you come back in and you do another 90 minutes of focused work. Okay, so I heard a ding. Hopefully that's good. Okay, so here's what I want to share with you guys. I want to share this with you like early on. My biggest color mistake. Okay, remember guys, I'm like, I'm getting published in the Elle Decor, the Luxury Now issue. So one of the things that happened was at the time there was this national blog. It was called iVillage, and they put out content every day. It was like BuzzFeed, but for design. And so they reached out to me a couple of years in a row, and they were always asking for holiday type stuff. We did other stuff, but a lot of it was holiday. And so at the time I had Daniel, who was our warehouse manager, and I was like, we got to come up with something unique. Let's come up with something unique. And I was like, why don't we do a blue and yellow kind of color story? Because I was thinking, oh, that'll work with Hanukkah and transition into Christmas. And we did an ombre tree. We actually we took an old white Christmas tree and we actually painted it. If you know what ombre is, it means you start with one color and then you actually delineate different colors out. So that was great. That was fine. But then I had this grand idea. I was like, well, we need yellow accessories. And we had these big, they were big. They were clear snowflakes that we'd sourced from like a craft store. It was like a Richard's craft store or something like that. And I bought all of them. We had stacks of snowflakes, and I was like, Daniel, let's do them the yellow that we picked. Well, we were like more than halfway into it. And we're looking at all these snowflakes lined up. We're like, holy crap. We just made, forgive me, pea snow. We're into it at this point. We paid for the paint. I paid him for his time. We've got this spread out all over everywhere. And I'm just like, oh my Lord. And we were too far into it. We had to figure out a way to redeem, if you will, save the design concept. So I we submitted it. We were just like, let's just run with it. Let's just go for it. And I'll look and see if I can find the pictures. This was from years ago. This was like probably 8 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And so we submitted it, and they used the ombre tree, the color thing. We were actually ahead of the curve on that one. And then on the blue and yellow tree, they didn't use the whole tree because we had the snowflakes, the yellow snowflakes, yes, stuck in the tree. But they actually used like a section of the yellow, and then we had some little birds and things like that inside the tree that were the same colors, that pulled on the yellows and the blues. Okay, so why do I share that with you? We had an opinion. I had an opinion, right? And we submitted it, and I survived. And I actually think having an opinion in color especially is what's going to separate you from the pack, okay? So, all right. And we got called the next year to do more of the holiday stuff. So I think they're like, I don't know who this lady is, but she gives us stuff people click on. Okay. So what are the 3 meetings that for you as the leader? Let me take a sip of water. What are the 3 meetings for you as a leader? So 3 meetings, 3 hours each in 90-minute sessions with timed breaks. Okay, so the first meeting is all about research, and I'm going to go in and break these down for you guys in just a minute. So the first meeting is all about research. The second meeting is all about kind of hands-on kind of playtime, and there's a purpose to the playtime. The third meeting is about bringing in help and getting an execution list, like a to-do list. Okay, so those are your 3 meetings, 3 hours each, 9 hours total for you. Then we're going to go into the 2 meetings that you're going to have with your team or, whoever is doing kind of the execution piece for you. So the first meeting, set aside 3 hours to do research, not 30. You're not binge watching, The Crown, right, for research. You are setting aside as the lead 3 hours for research on your color story. So I'm giving you just a couple of things that I like to do. So remember, first you're going to set the timer, 90 minutes. So I like to go outside. I like to look at old travel pictures. I like to look at magazines. Like I'll go into a grocery store and just look at magazines. Online is okay. Online research is okay. But what we found when we were trying to come up with original content to be actually published online was that a lot of what was already there was recycled. So the things that we researched and kind of copied from online didn't get published the same way that our original ideas got published. Does that make sense? So try to think outside the box in that sense. And then I say permission granted. Remember that license. You have permission to be wrong. I mean, guys, if I can survive yellow snowflakes submitted to national press, you've got this, okay? So you're not going to make that mistake. I like to drive around. I like to just drive around and, look in my neighborhood, and maybe you can go for a walk and just do research. The other thing I like to do for research is to look at brands that my ideal client is already buying and look at what colors those brands are using, okay? Especially during the holiday season. So one of the things that we took inspiration from was shortbread boxes. The shortbread, when people buy, I think it's Walker's shortbread. Well, that was one of the things that we took inspiration from for that red, right? I know other designers that we've worked with are more in kind of that light campy look. It's a little more Pottery Barn, and they use like the peppermint bark boxes that I think Pottery Barn and Crate and Barrel and those kind of companies sell peppermint bark. I think that's what it's called. It's like a chocolate with broken up peppermint on it. Okay, so when you're doing your research, your whole goal is not to come up with like the formal answer. It's just to get your eyes kind of moving and looking and thinking and seeing differently and getting new input. Okay, that's the first meeting, 3 hours, done. All right. Meeting 2. Get messy, crafty storyboards. So I put, do you remember those old school glue exercises where you glued like pine cone pieces or twigs or, you know, whatever, wrappers, or maybe you're cutting pictures out of magazines to construction paper? Okay. This is actually an important exercise, especially for you as the leader to stay fresh. Okay. You have 3 hours to make a pretty storyboard, an inspiration board, a color thing. Okay. One of the reasons it's so important to do this every year is that what you want to do is you want to bring out something fresh from who you are as the unique leader of your unique holiday brand. And that kind of brings the laughter, the joy, the lightheartedness into it. And I personally believe that's something that we really need now. And, you know, I'm not necessarily, how do I say this? I'm not the craftiest person to begin with. I enjoy it, but sometimes if I start to do crafts, like the whole room explodes with stuff. So that's why I say set those timers, give yourself 90 minutes, take a break, 90 minutes, and then you're done. It's like pencils done, drop your pencils, drop your glue, and that's it. Okay. All right. Next. So in your third meeting, this is your third 3-hour section. So the first big picture thing we're doing to develop a color story for your holiday brand is you're setting aside time. In that time, you're going to have 3 meetings as yourself, as the brand leader, right? This is highly organized. And then within the organized structure, you get total freedom, right? So in the third meeting, what you're basically doing is you're combining those things together. You're trying to articulate what's required to land this plane. Okay. You've gone out, you've done a bunch of research, you're kind of looking around, you're making sure you don't do yellow snow, and you're thinking about your holiday brand. Okay, let's say you're just designing a wrapping paper that you're going to have printed and you're going to sell as an adjunct to your primary design brand. Let's just say you're going to have a branded wrapping paper, something very simple, and you're going to see if you can sell it to your client list this holiday season. Very simple. So you've gone out, you've done your research, you've looked at patterns, you created kind of a storyboard. Now in your third meeting, 90 minutes, 15-minute break, 90 minutes, you're going to ask yourself the question, what's required to land this plane? And you're going to think about a storyline for your inspiration. You're going to create an execution or a checklist or a to-do list. What are the things that actually need to happen so that this plane actually lands? Okay. You're going to bring in other people if need be. Right? Maybe you have a virtual assistant, maybe you have somebody, a friend who's going to help you with this, but you are going to bring in the people that you need so that this thing actually gets done. All right, then I wrote craft a timeline with KISS goals, right? Keep it simple. So you want to keep it simple. If you can't describe it so that it has an outcome, it doesn't belong on your list. All right, so the next thing, so that's the first portion of your time. I want to make sure this is clear. Okay, so you're going to border your time. You're going to set aside basically 3 hours, 3 hours, and 3 hours. You're going to do research. You're going to get a little creative to kind of get the juices flowing for this present upcoming holiday season. And then you're going to land the plane with to-do lists. Then you're going to have 2 more meetings, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So in your third meeting, I put this in practice, even if you don't have a team, practice coming up with what would needed to be handed off to others. And think about what's the outcome or the storyline of your research and your inspiration board. And I'm going to give you an example from one of our actual product lines. So Majesty is kind of our core garland. It is our luxury, classic, timeless garland. And what I did was I basically created a storyline for Majesty. So I'm just going to read this to you so that you understand what kind of the goal of your research, your storyboard, and then this kind of wrap up meeting where you create execution lists is. So Majesty line came out of an old line family who wanted something traditional that would hold up outside on their fence in the winter snow, yet be classic enough to reuse every year. They are leaders in their small, wealthy mountain town, elegant ranch owners. They have large fencing. They have a ton of fencing that surrounds their property. And they wanted something significant, but not tacky, because their decor kind of sets the tone for the town. Okay. Very simple, not complicated. And you have a unique sound, especially when it comes to holiday. So if you're making a wrapping paper, like I just described, what you want to do is you want to take your research, look at your, your storyboards that you've made, maybe your vision boards, that's what you want to call it. Look at your vision board and then come up with a storyline for your wrapping paper. Okay. All right. So you're going to make a list of executables and then have your team or yourself, if you don't have a team, do that in 2 more meetings. In, again, 3-hour meetings, only 2, broken into 90-minute sessions. Okay. So basically, let's do a quick review. And then Michelle, if anybody has any questions, I don't even know if anybody's actually on live with us, but we'll, if anybody has any questions in the Facebook group, I can kind of address those. Actually, we'll address those at the end, but just ping me, Michelle, and let me know. Okay, so first, get a hold of your time, block it out. You're going to research, you're going to make a vision board, make a little vision thing, and then you're going to figure out what needs to happen to land the plane. Then you're going to, if you have a team, then you're going to get those instructions to the team to get that plane landed. Okay. And no more than 9 hours for yourself plus an additional 6 hours for your team. That's 15 hours total. That's it. Okay. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when we step into using the color wheel. So a lot of times people start with the color wheel and they're like, I'm going to start with all the colors. And I'm like, no, you actually can't do that. And I'm going to share a sample of why. Take a sip of water. Sorry, I get really passionate about that. Do not start with the color wheel. Start with the research. Start with the inspiration boards. Start with what's in here with you, not with a color wheel. Okay. Because what you really want to do is you want to pick up on the vibe for what you're going to bring to the marketplace. Okay. So second, the first one was time. That's the first thing. The second one is we're going to step into using the color wheel. So after you have the story and the general colors kind of vibe, feel that you want, then you go to the color wheel. Then you use the professional tools available, the Pantone colors, the hex numbers, all of those things that make your job professional. It's not random, and you're going to design it with purpose. And what happens is once you get the vibe down, then you go into the professional tool of color wheel. The other thing that using the color wheel will do for you is it makes it easy for clients to comprehend. And I'm going to show you what we do and what we don't do because it's too complicated. The other thing it does is it makes your team really powerful. I wrote this in the PowerPoint for you guys. Part of the execution piece for your team can be using the color wheel, but you want to develop the idea of it first. You want to think bigger than just the color because the color is the expression of your idea. It's not the end of your idea. And I use the example from our Majesty line. Again, Majesty is bigger than the color of hunter green. I mean, the core color is a really deep hunter green. If we'd started with hunter green as like the be all and end all, we'd never have the actual name Majesty because we came up with the idea of the name of the garland and the wreaths and the trees and all of that for that particular product line. The color then tells and sells the story, right? And we can actually look at the different greens that we want to use, what their undertones are, what they work with. But we didn't start with that first. The first thing we did was we did the research and we came up with the idea of majesty. Okay. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay. So if I think most of you guys are probably pretty familiar, hopefully that moves a little bit, with the color wheel. What I'm going to do is walk you through a couple of different exercises that we use. So I'm going to give you just a really baseline education on color, which you may already know, but let's hang together and enjoy this. So this first slide talks about monochromatic, analogous, and complementary. So monochromatic is basically when you take a color and then you reduce it down into like the different derivations of that color. Okay, so you would start with this bright red out here, and then you kind of work all the way down. And down here, you would get to your undertone. Okay, undertones. We might have time to talk about that later. We have a special guest this month coming on to share with us about color. I'm super excited. She's a phenomenal artist, and she's going to talk to us about all that stuff. Okay, so the next one is analogous. Analogous is basically things right next to each other on the color wheel. Okay, so if you've got a green, you're using a green next to it and another green next to it. So that's analogous. And then complementary is on the opposite sides of the color, on the opposite sides of the wheel. So complementary you see in a lot of sports teams, right? When they want to punch, they're using the orange and the blue, the red and the green for Christmas. It's actually a complementary combination. Okay, so next. How do you develop a color opinion? So you've done your research, you have a storyline, you're coming up with an opinion, even if it sucks, you've got a color opinion, okay? Remember, you cannot be wrong. So complementary, here's another graphic for you guys. There's complementary, analogous, and triadic. Split complementary, which is basically a different ratio of how color is used. And then tetradic, I never know how to pronounce that. I always say like quad. So what we do not mess with these combinations down here. A lot of times, especially because holiday is a short season, this, if you try to get too complicated in your expression of how well you know color and how to mix and match stuff, what happens is your clients actually can't comprehend it. Okay, it's like trying to take someone to a really expressive and what's the word, complicated symphony, and trying to get them to understand all the musical notes when they're not trained in musical theory. Okay, so what we want to do, especially for holiday, I have found, keep it simple. Keep your color combinations simple. So you've done your research, you've come up with a storyline. We'll just use Majesty as an example, right? So Majesty, we have this, it's really classic, it's elegant, it's timeless, it can be indoors, outdoors, works in a ranch setting, works in a city setting. And when we're developing our color stories for the year, we're keeping it simple. We're going to come up with one complementary color story. We're going to come up with an analogous color story, and we're going to come up with a triadic color story. And that's it. Okay. Otherwise, it's just too complicated and it's too messy. It's like you don't really have time, nor do you want to necessarily dedicate time to do that. So how do you come up with your color opinion? I recommend having three different color stories for your specific holiday brand. First, come up with a complementary one, right? So ours for Majesty is a hunter green with a deep red. That's our complementary one. Second, you come up with an adjacent color story or an analogous color story. So we would take the hunter green and then we would move to the left and we would move to the right. And we would incorporate those colors as another color story for our brand. The next is to come up with the triad. So the triad is the hunter green. Let me show you in this other one, right? The purple, right? And then the orange, okay? So that's what we develop. We develop three color stories. Some people who are doing lots of branded content. So there are a couple designers that we know who are doing like I said, wrapping paper. And they're coming up with like 5 or 7 different wrapping papers. Even though their designs are different, their color stories are really combined into 3 different options so that all of those wrapping papers, which are actually double-sided, can be used in conjunction with each other. Okay. So if you'll take the time, you got 15 hours, guys, 9 plus 6 max, 15 hours, you can come up with your entire branded color story. Okay. So then I put in, so you're going to develop 3 final answers using the color wheel. And then what we call flourishes are like the ta-da moments on the tops of Christmas trees, or the little florist picks that are sticking out of your arrangements or your garlands or whatever you're doing. And I always say have no more than 5 types. Now, I'm going to set my style aside for a minute. We do have some people who I dearly love and respect. They have a drastically different aesthetic than what I'm training on. But if you look at even their overall thing, which is really explosive in holiday decor and hugely successful, they still tend to keep it to like 5 or 7 different types of things that they use in combination. Okay. So yeah, you're going to have a stronger visual aesthetic if you stick to fewer types and use more of them than if you try to have one of everything. Okay, because the eye just can't process that much. Okay, you may be able to process it as a professional, but your clients can't. And really what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're honoring your clients. Okay. All right, so I make custom combinations available in limited editions, kind of like the Oscar dresses. If you're working one-on-one with clients, we're not working one-on-one with clients this year. We're just doing product. But when we have in the past, we would make a couple of special vignettes. It was like, okay, well, we can sell 2 of these, but no more, because you don't want people, if they're paying you a lot of money to do their holiday decor, you don't want them to always, go into the neighbor's house and see the same thing. All right. So how are we doing on time? Okay, we're good. All right, 12:30. Okay, 12:35. So first is time. You're going to set aside your time. Second, after you set aside your time, you're going to use the professional tools. You're going to use the actual hex numbers, the Pantone color numbers, the actual color wheel to identify and create the actual colors. Okay. Third, you're going to create a simple, shareable, branded color template. Okay. What do I mean by this? Even if you're doing your own home, even if you've never done this before, even if you're thinking, Ann, I don't even have a holiday decor business. I'm taking this because I want to have one. Okay. Doesn't matter. Walk through this process. Practice, 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 practice. Okay. Professional pianists do scales. They practice. Baseball players do the batting cage. Practice this. It's actually not that hard. So in August, we have an actual training on templates. But right now, what I'm gonna counsel you to do is use online tools like PicMonkey and Canva. Okay, because you can actually insert the hex number, the actual color numbers, to make sure that they work. Don't overthink this. Right? You're going to come up with 3. I would prefer 3. Some of you might do 5 or 7, but I don't even do 5 or 7. I do 3. That's it. And just come up with your 3 colors. This is my complimentary color scheme for this year, and it is called Flourish. This is my analogous color scheme this year, and it's called something, right? Maker's Mark. No, that's a whiskey. I don't know. Maker's Magic. I don't know. Come up with a name, right? Because that's what you're doing in your research portion. And then you're going to come up with a triad color combination, and you're going to call it, I don't know, triple threat, or I don't know, happy holiday home. I don't know. Come up with something. All right. So you're going to come up with names. Okay. Now it's super simple to create these. You just create a simple shareable document. Maybe you create it in Canva, and you're going to name it. Like I said, don't use my names. Those names are not great. Took me a long time to come up with Majesty. But you're going to name it, right? So the 3 lines that we have are Aspen Winter, Majesty, and Joie de Vivre. Those are our 3 holiday product lines. You're going to name it. Okay. So What does this look like in reality? It is not always seamless. Reds were a major issue for me. And I'm going to tell you why, because we tried to get an outdoor ribbon in red that would hold its red, and it sucked. It didn't match with anything else. So that's why I talk about getting a hold of the actual physical color number and making your decisions so that you're not sourcing product and then working backwards. Okay. This particular color training comes out of my having chosen something and trying to work backwards and having it suck. Okay. We also had an issue where we had these outdoor, they call them rounds in the industry, but they're like 8 to 10 inches. They're plastic. They're supposedly weatherproof. But what happened was the red started to fade in the snow and the sun. And so we couldn't reuse them, and clients couldn't reuse them. It was like a one-off product. And that was not fun. I wrote, they shed their color in the snow. That was not fun. So do follow the steps that I've shared with you guys. Okay. So what does it look like for us? Like just boots on the ground, practical aspect. So every season I give myself permission to experiment. Okay. You guys heard what I did with the yellow. It was awful. The reason I came up with the pink and the blue, the joie de vivre, is because I gave myself permission to experiment. It's really not any more complicated than that. I was like, what is an unusual color combination for Christmas? It's like, well, pink and blue. And what's funny is that it actually works really well with Thanksgiving colors. If you get the undertones right, the blues work really nicely with Hanukkah. It works really well in warmer climates, Florida, Palm Springs. You know, I mean, you just never know. So trust that inspirational process. Okay, so 3 expressions from our client-facing business. We are not, like I said, we're not going to do in-house projects this year. We're just working on the brand. Okay, because last year we sold out and that was a bummer. So we wanted to be able to sell more. So the traditional colors for Majesty is dark green. And then we usually do the complement with it in the deep reds because it's a traditional, it's just really traditional line. Joie de vivre is pinks and blues. And then Aspen Winter is usually like the burgundies, we call it maple sugar, browns with some green. Now, if you guys are working with clients and you have to come up with branded color stories for your clients, one of the things that we did when we did that was we would have what we call a disappearing act, which is whatever the client's house was, we would make things, I'm going to grab something and show you guys. We would make things that match their decor. So this is an actual ornament with tissue that was applied to it with some glitter that matched a client's house. And this was designed to disappear so that their holiday decor wasn't this like overarching like thing in their house. Their house was blue and white. So everything that we did that year was blue and white to just match in. That's the disappearing act. The other thing would be if their house was blue and white, then you would do an orange, right? You would do something that was a contrast. So those are 2 ways you can work with clients if you're actually doing the hands-on decor piece. And I would just give clients those two choices. So if you don't know where to start, this is where we start. The monochromatic, which is this, basically this, right? You're going to pick one color. You're going to make it fit into either your client's decor, or you're going to pick one color that you love, and you're just going to do that through the whole season. Or the analogous, right? The analogous, you just keep everything kind of in the same vein. Complementary is fine, but that high drama, like I said, that's used for a lot of like professional sports teams and competition and stuff like that, because it's a little more high energy. So if you're just starting out and you're a little shy about stuff, I would stick with the monochromatic and the analogous. And I put adjacent because I always call it adjacent, even though it's technically analogous, but whatever. So it's super easy to use in the areas of creams and whites, right? It's super elegant. I actually think it's one of the reasons Joanna Gaines is so prolific, is that she always sticks in kind of those monochromatic whites and grays and pale blues and things like that. It's super elegant. The other thing that's nice about that is if you're sourcing product instead of making product, it's easy to find ribbons and things like that with the proper undertones, because you're picking a color and you're kind of working one way or you're working another. I always say, it's very easy to create a simple vignette or color story when you're using a bunch of different elements, and let's say they're all white, right? Don't try to come up with more than 5 options. We only do 3. We do 3 color stories and that's it. And I can tell you, even that is, we're not a huge shop, so that can be hard to fulfill. If you're doing the wrapping papers, go ahead and come up with 5, but make sure they all have what's called an anchor color, right? So that everything bridges from that anchor color so that those papers can be used in conjunction with each other. And it's great to create simple documents clients can shop with, especially in the analogous and the monochromatic, right? So you give, clients these colors, when Home Goods opens up again, or TJ Maxx, or wherever they're going to shop, Pottery Barn, they can take their little color sheet in or have it on their iPad, and they can just kind of walk around the store and match. And that's pretty special. And what's nice is that you can charge like $35 for those sheets. So what does it look like for us? We start with our existing product lines, Majesty, Aspen, Winter, and Joie de Vivre. Right now, that's what we've got. We were thinking about bringing in more product this year, but the way China is set up and the import thing, not sure that's going to work. We might still, just to have a lower price line for some of our clients. Fit in versus drama. So if you are on the front lines and you're going to decorate homes this holiday season, you really just want to have 2 different ways of thinking. The first is, I want it to fit in and just kind of meld in with my client's decor. The other is you want drama and contrast. If you'll take your color choices into just those 2 areas, it will dramatically simplify your life. Okay. As a professional, keep it simple. Okay. It's one of the reasons Range Rover is expensive, because they keep it simple. Okay. And even if you have a lower price line, you can use those same tools. Keep it simple. Either you're going to go, mesh colors in with your client's decor, or you're going to go high drama. And then when you walk into a client's home and you're like, oh, I'm going to do holiday, then you can very easily give them the option. Are we going to go high drama this year, or are we going to do very simple? All right. So this is where we start every year. I mean, I'm doing this with you guys. This is right now, I'm looking at the big board. It's April. We got color stories. Then you step into the color theory. You use those professional tools. Complementary. You're going to come up with a complementary color story. You're going to come up with a triad color story, and you're going to come up with an analogous color story. Then if you want to add in patterns and things like that, go ahead. Here we use a lot of herringbone, buffalo plaid, stripes, things like that. And then we're gonna talk about mapping color and flourishes, I think, in another training, because we are already, we're already 12:47. So you can see this is a packed training, and people are like, why are you doing an entire training on color stories? I'm like, you have no idea. This is a game changer for your brand. Okay, so conclusion. Time first. You're going to block off your time, and you're going to set aside between 9 and 15 hours. That's it. 2, you're going to use the professional color wheel, the professional color numbers. Okay. 3rd, you're going to execute a finished shareable look in Canva or in PicMonkey. And here's what I want to encourage you guys. Go ahead and do that this week. Practice, put it in the Facebook group. Let's see what we come up with. I'll put some of mine together. I'll share them. I want to see yours in the group. This is a small group. I think we've got 10 people in the group right now. Someday we'll have a lot more, but right now let's take advantage of this small group and really build out your color story. If you do these 3 things, you will have an official color story for your brand, even if it's yellow snowflakes. You will recover. And for this conclusion 2.0, 3 meetings max for you, that's 9 hours. 2 meetings for your team, max, that's 6 hours. So in 15 hours, that's less than 2 full days of work, you can have an entire branded color story. So What that means is by next week on Thursday, the 23rd, when we do our live Q&A with the group, if you can ask questions, like bring in your color stories, come up with your names. I mean, it's going to definitely be better than Maker's Mark, which is a whiskey, you know? So that's today's training. All right. I think we've had, let me exit. Let me stop the share. Pause the share. Resume share. New share. Let's go back to the screen. Share. Does that mean me? I don't know, guys. Hey, Michelle, how am I doing?
We have two ladies on
Yes.
Facebook, but no questions so far. But we haven't let, I think it's a 10-second delay.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So we'll give it a few
let
seconds.
Let me exit. Let me go back. I don't know how to go back to just the screen, guys. So, all right. Well, I guess let's just end on that for right now then. Okay. And let's cancel that out. I kept that out of my way. Awesome. So guys, put your questions in the Facebook group. Think about getting your branded color stories in this week before the 23rd. And that's our training for today. All right. Have a good day, guys. Bye.